Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today, Jeff, we have an extremely exciting football game to talk about. How pumped are you about this?
I mean, I was expecting quite the offensive spectacular, and I was not let down. 13-9, Craig. 13-9.
Man, this is... Oh, I guess this is Thursday Night Football for you. I don't even know if it's Thursday Night Football. I think it might just be the Bengals and the Texans. That's what this is. And it was ugly. The thing is, I think you can actually say, I think we might have actually learned a couple things tonight, crazy, in a way. I mean, other than these teams are terrible. And one thing we learned is Andy Dalton is terrible. Like, it wasn't a fluke last week. I think we got that one. I mean, geez, it's like he's just not good anymore. I mean, maybe he never was, but I thought he was a better player than this. I guess the Texans have another good defense, but God, if he can't do anything against these kind of decent defenses, he's just worthless to me. It just kills AJ Green's value, which, Jeff, I don't know if you saw today on Instagram, we posted up our rankings.
I did. Once again, man.
You were getting a lot of heat for two of your ranks today.
Yeah,
it was AJ Green. It was AJ Green. You had him 10th, and people just thought you were crazy. Yeah. And I think you might be right. And you were way too high on AJ, actually.
Well, I was going to say, I was actually wrong. I had him too high. So, once again, I mean, I don't hate AJ, but I mean, it's like any player. I mean, it depends on what defense they're going against and how the other people that, have to get them the ball are going to react to that defense as well. So, I mean, especially after last week, and you saw Dalton struggle that mightily. I mean, 5 turnovers. Even if you were thinking he's going to come back to the middle, you're kind of like, okay, AJ could have a good game. But if he doesn't even come back to the middle, it doesn't matter how good AJ is. He's not going to get there. And, so he does have 5 receptions for 67 yards. So not a complete waste. You're playing him no matter what. You got some points out of him. You're a little angry, but it doesn't absolutely kill you. But at the same time, like, moving forward, especially with a lot of these talented wide receivers, if their quarterbacks are no good, especially for the time being, then you have to, act accordingly. You can't keep thinking AJ Green can score without Dalton.
No, and even DeAndre Hopkins, I ranked him up there too this week because the targets were just so much last week. And again, he had 13 targets today, but 7 catches for 73. In PPR, that's a little better. That's not bad. But in a standard scoring league, he's only getting 73 yards, no touchdowns. I mean, you're going to start him probably. I mean, AJ Green for sure you're going to start. Hopkins, you're probably starting. I mean, I don't see any way you can't with that many targets. It's just to expect much more, I think, going forward is going to be tough. I mean, I guess we're going to have to see something from them before we trust them again. And who knows when that'll be. I mean, Houston has at New England coming up, against Tennessee, against Kansas City. So none of those are easy matchups. So week 6 against Cleveland's probably the next time they have any kind of opportunity, you think, to maybe put up some offensive numbers. So
yeah, and if we're looking just at these two extremely talented wide receivers between Hopkins and Green, who are kind of in the same position right now, right? I would still lean towards Green because we know definitely at some point Andy Dalton can get his stuff together. I don't think this is the end of Dalton's career by any means, but he definitely has hit a rough patch beginning this year, and you see what decent defenses do to him now. Hopkins, on the other hand, Deshaun Watson, for all I know, could develop to be a good quarterback, but right now his passing skill is not where it needs to be for the NFL.
No.
But I mean, luckily for him, that run he had was really, really, awesome. And not that anyone would have played him, but it kind of salvaged his night. I mean, they got the win, but for Hopkins, I mean, heaven forbid those targets go down at all, because he's going to be in a world of hurt. So, I mean, if you're looking at those two, Green, and both of them are talented enough. At some point, they will both break out. They will both score touchdowns, and people will cry and say, oh, man, I wish I would have had them. But, remember these nights when you're like, wow, I would have had to pay a ton for them. And, they're putting up wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 numbers.
just looking at these early numbers here, it's like Hopkins got 13 targets. The next on the team was Braxton Miller with 3. No one in Houston's going to get going.
Yeah, they're trying to force feed the ball to Hopkins, and I'm kind of, I don't think it's going to get much better than this. I mean, at some point he will score a few touchdowns during the year, but I mean, catching 50% of the balls thrown at him seems like probably the best case scenario.
Yep. And then Eifert for Cincinnati, he actually went down, looks like, with an injury towards the end. Don't know anything about, severity or what it is yet, but only he had 3 catches, 42 yards. That follows up last week's 1 catch for 4 yards. So through 2 games, 4 catches, 46 yards. I mean, is he droppable at this point? Or are you it's hard to say he's droppable, but are you even comfortable starting him? And if you're not comfortable starting him, do you want a backup tight end on your bench? I mean, what do you do here?
I mean, it all depends on who you can still get. I mean, more than likely Eifert is going to be the best talent you can possibly find. And, we say those numbers, but at the same time, the majority of it came in this game, right? So at least he's moving in the right direction.
But still only 3 for 42.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good, but at the same time, 42 yards from a tight end is not going to kill you necessarily. And I truly believe in his upside, but once again, he's tied to Dalton. So, that guy, you have to look for when is he going to kind of get back on track. That's when you'll start seeing Eifert and his touchdowns increase, and then he'll pay dividends. But you kind of went for Eifert, and unless you can, I mean, Austin Hooper maybe, but he probably got picked up in waivers this week. You're kind of tied to him for now. I just assume
you are,
unless you're in a very, an 8-man league or 8-team league, and then you can find someone. But right now, you just have to hope that Dalton gets his stuff together.
And then the running back situation here, man, it is ugly with the Bengals and their running backs. I think both teams looked ugly running. But with the Bengals, at least I kind of got the sense towards the end. It felt like Joe Mixon was getting more of the work. He still only had 9 carries, but I can see them trend that way. I mean, Hill was 6 for 17, follows up as 6 for 26. He's just not good. I mean, is there anything that you can possibly say that he's any good? I mean, he shouldn't be getting near as many carries as Mixon. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Mixon is a better athlete, and especially, he really didn't do that much better than Jeremy Hill. He looks a little bit better. 4 yards a carry compared to 2.8, but he had 3 more carries, and neither of them had. I think Hill had a long of 6, Mixon had a long of 7. Really, Texans do have a good defense, so put that into the mix. True. But I think this is, you're starting to see the shift where, if the Bengals are going to lose anyway, they're going to see what they really do have in Mixon. And we've said this before. I think he's a more talented back. He'll come out on top. And I think this is just the fire they need to just kind of hand it off to Mixon and say, hey, if you make something work, we'll just hand it over to you. So yeah, I think this is the first game where or the next game will be the first one where you see Mixon take charge of that run game.
And then with Houston, Foreman finally, he got some work this week. We heard he looked like they were going to try to get him more involved, and they did. 12 carries, but only 40 yards. He looked better early on. I think he kind of tapered off towards the end there, and Miller started getting a lot more of the work. And if Miller was going to continually get the work, this is why I listed him as one of my safe players early on in this, preseason. Because in a terrible game when nothing's happening, he doesn't even look good. He's still got 8.7 in standard. That's an 11.7 in PPR. So if that was going to continue, that's why you can see Miller's just a safe option. He's going to have you a floor. But I think Foreman's definitely going to get this work. It's not just goal line work. He's just getting, 12 carries. That's pretty decent. And Miller really didn't step there even, I think, until later, until the fourth quarter there. Foreman was right there with him. Actually, I think he had more carries early on for a while.
Yeah, Lamar had, yeah, exactly. And Lamar had, 6 more carries, and really one run was the difference between their yardage. He had
I think the 19-yarder, I think it was.
Yeah, 19. So it's closer than people think. And, I like Foreman. I was a big advocate of his. Thinking he was going to cut into Lamar Miller's carries, but even I didn't think it was going to be quite this early. Like week 2, and he's already getting that kind of timeshare with him. This is, I mean, I don't know. This does not bode well for Lamar Miller. That's all I can say at the moment.
Yeah, it still get work, but it's just going to be more of a split. I think they want to see what they have in Foreman, and I think they know what they have in Miller. I mean, this is pretty much what he did last year. And look at it, 17 carries for 65 in week 1, 18 for 61 in week 2. And I mean, I think that's Lamar Miller at this point. That's what he is. And which is okay. It's okay. It's just okay.
Yeah.
Well, why not try to see what Foreman can do? Yeah. He's not killing it. Why not give Foreman some work and see what he has there and maybe, do something. But either way, both of these teams, just ugly situations. You're still playing Hopkins and Green, most likely. Miller, you probably, not every situation you're stuck playing Miller, but a lot of teams probably have to, the way the running back situation is around the league, but not necessarily.
No, but
I wouldn't feel comfortable with it.
No, but it does. I think the thing you can learn from this is, hey, if Deontay Foreman is not owned in your league, he's definitely worthy of the waiver pickup.
Yeah, at least throw him on the bench.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But other than that, both of these offenses, oh man, talk about lackluster.
It's just ugly. I'm not excited at all about any of it. So how about I'm going to finish talking about that. We got a couple questions that came in. Might as well get some answers for questions for the games this upcoming weekend. All right, Jeff, I'm putting you on the spot. You haven't seen these questions at all. I want to see what your first thoughts. We got Carson sent us an email. This is a PPR league. He's asking, does he start Buck Allen home against Cleveland or Chris Hogan on the road against the Saints? What are you looking at there?
Oh, man.
It's tough.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I'm starting to come around on Buck Allen a little bit, but I do think, I know it's against Cleveland, but I would lean towards Chris Hogan personally. That New Orleans defense looked really atrocious. I think Patriots are going to be out for blood because, obviously they lost week 1 versus KC. And I liked what I saw of Buck Allen, but at the same time, Terrence West is still the lead back there. And I didn't see Buck Allen necessarily catch too many week 1, so I'm still kind of waiting to see what his role is.
He did that in 2015. He caught a lot of balls.
It's very true, and Woodhead is down, but at the same time, I don't really know what they're going to do. I don't know. I think it's the unknown. It's not necessarily, will their game plan change? It's, is Terrence West going to take up more? Is Buck Allen going to come in, only for third down as a change of pace back? I'm not sure. They just
activated Jeremy Langford to the main roster, the main team there, so off the practice squad.
Dude, that has to be. Know. Talk about a backfield of just mediocre running backs, man.
But back in 2015, Buck Allen did catch 45 passes that season. So
and you might be calling it right. I think I like Chris Hogan's upside better for this week. I just think Buck Allen is a little too risky. But that's me. That's a personal call. What would you say, Craig?
It depends to me, I think, on Amendola's status in a way. If Amendola's out with that, had a concussion and, some issues. If Amendola is out, I think I go with Hogan for sure. Because I think Hogan's going to definitely step into that role and catch most of those balls. Amendola had 6 for 100 last week. And so if he's out, I can definitely see Hogan getting most of that work. And Buck Allen, as much as, I did like seeing him get, some work there last week, it wasn't like he hit 21 carries. He only got 71 yards out of it. And I think a majority of these carries came later in the game. They were already up. They were, blowing out the Bengals. They didn't need to do as much. He had a lot of carries late. And he really wasn't effective with them. It's kind of a weird thing where everyone's just going to go pick him up. And he barely ran for over 3 yards a carry. It didn't look that great. And Terrence West, I think Terrence West looked better, even as much as I don't like Terrence West. And I've been the Buck Allen guy on this podcast coming up, through the preseason. But I think you go Hogan. I think it's more safe. If I want to see how they use Buck Allen, if they do use him in the pass catching role, yeah, his value, especially in PPR, is going to be great. But we can't be sure of how exactly they're going to do that yet.
Yeah. Yep. So we're in agreement.
Yep, definitely. And one more question here. All right. Let's see here. This is another one I had for you because it's a player that you typically seem to have on your teams.
Okay.
Let's see how you're feeling about him right now.
Uh-oh.
Landon asked us, should I try to trade Jordan Howard and someone else for Jay Ajayi? So he's looking to trade Jordan Howard and packaging someone else to get Ajayi.
Well, I mean, it really depends on who the second player is.
Other
first
guy
of all,
is.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like other guy, he could be useless. He could be another starter. I'm not sure what you're thinking here.
Okay, let's just take someone else out of it. Would you even trade Jordan Howard straight up for Jay Ajayi right now? Are you still?
No. Right now, I mean, right now, I would have to. Right. I mean, it just shows. I think Jordan Howard's gonna be a fine player. I think you're gonna be able to start him on your team. But did his value take a hit? Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Cohen was much more of a formidable player than I gave him credit for. Obviously, I had no idea. And
well, you should have listened to me, Jeff. I told you.
Last week, where were you in the preseason?
Hey, it was still before week 1.
Yeah. At the same time, he's going to get goal line carries. He's going to do a lot of great things. But Ajayi is still the only guy in town, and we haven't seen him play. So it kind of gives me I'm just going off of last year. So, yeah, I would. I'd rather have Ajayi, but I'm not ready to sell the farm to get rid of Howard because he still has a lot of value. And I think you're way better off kind of holding on to him, waiting for him to have that 2-touchdown game and then see what you can get for him than on him off early, especially with someone else, especially if there's someone, because his value is going to be low because exactly everyone saw Cohen. Everyone's talking negatively about him. So you're trading him at his lowest point. You know what I mean? Like you have to think about it almost as a stock and you want to make sure you're getting the most value out of him. Right now, you're not going to get that value.
So basically at this point, the only way you do the Howard and someone else trade for Ajayi is if that someone else is a player you're comfortable cutting from your team, basically.
I don't need him. Like I'm not going to play him besides on bye weeks or something like that. So if it's a wide receiver or someone you're not going to use or a kind of a wait and see running back maybe, then yeah, I would pull the trigger on that. I think that's completely fine. I don't think that's panicking at all. Ajayi he's a very, very good player. Both of them I had ranked in the top 10. So you might as well go for the guy that has no other, guy behind him really pushing him.
Yep. All right. Well, actually, one last thing. It's not really a question, but I just want to see, again, how you're thinking on this. Jacob doesn't ask us. He basically tells us. He's going off of our tight end ranks. We had Jimmy Graham. I had him 30 of them second. Okay. Mm-hmm. He says, Jimmy Graham can't catch anything, and you put him ahead of Ertz. Shaking my head.
All right. So, yeah, you're right. That's not a question.
So this week, just people explain, yes, Jimmy Graham didn't look great last week and Ertz did. But here are the matchups. Graham gets to play, I believe, at home against San Francisco, while Ertz gets to go play against Tom Brady. Or not Tom Brady. Why did I say it? Against a team that just shut down Tom Brady, the Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. Try to tell Jacob what's up with this.
I get his frustration. Obviously, he's probably Ertz fan, and I think we all are. I think we're all kind of pulling for the guy because he looked really good and he's finally healthy this year. But first of all, Jimmy Graham, he can catch, and he catches a lot of touchdowns over his career. And second of all, you have to go matchup, right? And KC, if they can shut down Gronk, I hate to tell you, but Gronk is a way better player than Ertz. And you never know. Maybe he'll score a touchdown. Maybe, this and that. Who knows? But I got to go for the most likely scenario. And that likely scenario is Ertz probably has a middling game where he probably gets 40, 50 yards maybe. And Graham has a real chance to catch a touchdown and get, far more yardage. So you got to go Graham. And you look at his numbers from before, he's been a much more productive player than Ertz has ever been, really.
And once people start nitpicking ranks like this, I mean, Zach Ertz is 5th for both of us.
Yeah, he's still very high.
We have him almost high as we almost shouldn't even have him that high with the matchup, what they did to Gronk. But we still do. We're definitely.
I feel like we've been way higher on him. I was going to say, you've been high on him forever, and I'm coming around on him. And I think in general, our show, if you will, has been much higher on him than a lot of other people.
Yep. No, definitely agree. Oh yeah, one last question. I just want to throw this one out there because typically our ranks, we always talk about standards. We don't go into PPR too much, but this makes it an interesting question because we both have one guy ahead of the other in standard. But tell me if it changes your mind in PPR. Basically, it's Devontae Adams or Adam Thielen. In PPR, do you change your mind and go Thielen? And I kind of think we've been kind of down on Adam Thielen. I'm starting to come around on this a little bit. I don't know why. We just some reason just haven't valued him as much as we should. And I don't know, we might be missing the boat on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit, week one, the Vikings offense completely showed me up. I mean, we make the ranks for an entire season, but if week one is any indication, I undervalued Bradford. I undervalued that offensive play calling, and and because of that, I undervalued Thielen. I think Diggs, we were relatively high on, but we still thought he was going to be handicapped by the offense. So I mean, that's definitely on me. Thielen is definitely a better PPR option, but this week, help me out, Craig. Thielen going against. I really have to look at the matchup. I don't think it's a great matchup.
Why am I missing this up? Was it Pittsburgh this week?
Yeah, I think I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, they're playing against Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yep, and they're on the road. They're on the road at Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. So it will be a high scoring game. So quite possibly, and Devontae Adams,
Randall Cobb.
He has a great chance of. Yeah, exactly. Cobb is kind of the one that throws it off whack. Devontae Adams still has a very high percentage of catching touchdowns. So I'm not quite there yet. I think I would still lean towards Devontae Adams, but that
even in PPR.
Even in PPR. But that is a very legit, thinking thought process in order to try to figure out how best to round out your roster for the week. That's a very good one.
And I think people got to remember, you can't overreact to week one too much. And I've seen that already all week. So much overreactions to what week one and how, it's just, you gotta just wait. I don't think we'll know anything until about maybe week 4. That's when I feel like I'll probably maybe feel comfortable saying that, I know situations and I understand situations and how they're going to go. I just don't quite yet, I would say, if we're trying to be realistic here.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, well, I think that's all we got for today. And we'll be back, Sunday night, Monday morning, early Monday morning with our reactions to week 2 and all the action. Maybe we will learn some stuff. I hope we do. So we'll be able to let you guys know our thoughts. Maybe we'll learn early, but we'll talk to you guys next